The best kind of comedy is the kind that demands a second viewing. Some jokes fly by so fast that even if you laugh at them, you don't appreciate the true depth of the joke until you hear it twice. Community is the god king of this kind of comedy on television, which should come as no surprise given that this show was created by the all-star team of Dan Harmon and the Russo brothers, two names that pretty much everyone knows these days thanks to their work on Rick and Morty and the MCU respectively. But Community was their first big hit, and it has all the trademarks of both creators, most of which you notice upon rewatching the show. Now it's all on Netflix. This irreverent, cartoonish sitcom had a lot of details in the background of the show's plots, a lot of which require careful combing through individual episodes before finding them. And I, Ori Styler, and the great people of this channel, What Culture, did exactly that so we could present to you 10 things you learn rewatching Community. Number 10, the show commits to its running gags. A good running gag knows exactly how much gas it has in the tank and runs it through until it is completely dry. Community understands this better than almost every show of its type out there. Rather than just come up with a few running gags and run them into the ground, they came up with multiple and just sparsed them out across different episodes and attached to different characters. By now we already know the most famous example, when different characters mention Beetlejuice, culminating in Annie saying it a third time and a man dressed as Beetlejuice walks by in the background. It's a blink and you'll miss the joke, but one that brilliantly rewards viewers for their dedication. There are plenty of others out there, such as Pierce's addiction to painkillers in season 2, all of which the magic you get when a writing team is comprised of exactly the right people on the exact same page. Number 9, Gwyneth is real. Executive producer Dan Harmon is notorious for being the outspoken type, especially on social media. So it makes sense that when someone particularly annoys him, he likes to have some good-natured fun at their expense. One of the standout episodes of season 2, if not the entire show, is Cooperative Calligraphy, where Annie loses her pen and by the end the entire gang is trying to kill each other, trying to find out who took it. But before the insanity truly breaks out, Jeff calls his date, Gwyneth, to tell her that the date is off. Funny thing though, Gwyneth is real. At least that's what a Twitter user called herself when she got into a Twitter feud with Dan Harmon. Harmon found the feud so annoying yet so funny that he decided to lampoon the source of his temporary frustration in an episode, having his show's protagonist stand her up and basically telling her to kiss his ass. Not the most mature response, but hey, who am I to judge? I wish I thought of it myself. Number 8. ABED has his own adventures in the background. ABED just kind of moves at his own rhythm, and we adore him for it. And clearly the writers love him too for it, since in several episodes, if you look in the background, you can clearly see ABED having his own misadventures behind the main story. It's not the B plot, it would get focus if that were the case. It's just a background gag that you wish to know the full story of when you see it. The two best examples of this are in season 2, where in one episode, we see ABED delivering a baby, and later on we see him carrying on this hilarious and kinda adorable romance with a Secret Service agent. And the best part of these background adventures is that they're in canon. Instead of just being background one and done gags, they reference these adventures later on, such as ABED volunteering to help Shirley deliver her baby when she goes into labor during class. Number 7. Danny PUDI really was on Cougar Town. One of ABED's strangest running gags was his obsession on the TV show Cougar Town, a real show that actually exists and was running concurrently with Community. Well, the Cougar Town crew obviously liked the idea, so they and the Community crew decided to have some fun. In the season 2 episode Critical Film Studies, ABED mentions getting to be in the background of an episode of Cougar Town. At first you're led to believe it's just part of the act he's putting on for Jeff, but if you watch the Cougar Town season 2 finale, Something Good Coming Part 2, then you know the punchline. Danny PUDI actually appears in that episode, right between two of the characters in exactly the scene that ABED described to Jeff. If we get meta about this, there are a few things we can take away from this. The most obvious being that Cougar Town is just a TV show in the Community universe instead of its own thing. This would kill pretty much any investment in the show's narrative if anyone but me actually cared about this kind of stuff. Number 6. The true thief of Annie's pen is set up from the beginning. In the same episode Dan Harmon took it to Gwyneth, Cooperative Calligraphy, the true thief of Annie's pen is revealed at the very end to be Annie's boobs, the monkey, making the fact that the gang all agreed that a ghost did it even more hilarious than it already was. However, like any good mystery story, the real answer is straight up advertised to the audience right at the very beginning. You just aren't aware of it because you have no idea what the story is about yet, so you aren't looking for hidden details. At the very start of the episode, when the dean comes in to tell them all about the puppy parade, right at that moment when Troy mentions wishing to lick the puppy in the dean's arms, if you look right next to Annie, you can actually see the pen being taken right off the desk, with everyone none the wiser. It's a clever hidden gem, not just because you're unlikely to notice it due to the show just putting the most adorable little puppy in your face, followed by Troy's attention grabbing non sequitur, but when you do notice it the second time around, it makes everything that unfolds afterward even funnier because you now know from the beginning what's actually going on. So seeing them turn on each other like animals over something so stupid goes from hilarious to hysterical. Thank you, Annie's boobs. Number 5, the age gap between Annie and Jeff is creepy. Generally speaking, age gaps in romances are only discussed when they pertain to when one member of that romance is underage. This is not the problem in Community, but a large age gap can still be creepy even when both parties are legal and consenting adults. When the show begins, our protagonist Jeff is pushing 30. Meanwhile, Annie is only 19. While it does make her a consenting adult, and thankfully Jeff never met her before the show began, so it spared the added creepy layer of grooming, it's still pretty sketchy. Once the gap in age between these two processes in your mind, you'll likely immediately afterwards realize how many times Jeff calls her kid, the kid, etc. And why wouldn't he call her a kid? He's a full decade older than her. If Annie was just a bit further into her 20s at the start, this honestly wouldn't be a problem. By then she would be a full adult and by US law, even legal to drink. So if she wants to date someone 10 years older than her, it's her business. As it stands, it should come as no shock that the show tried its damnedest to hook Jeff up with Britta for the first 2 seasons. Number 4, Shirley has by far the darkest past. It's clear that Shirley has more than a few reasons for turning to Jesus than she lets on. It takes us a while to get to the backstories of every member of the study group, but they're all a perfect mixture of absolutely wacky and totally believable for the people these characters are now. And while we don't get every inch of Shirley's backstory, we know enough to know that it's still ridiculous, but in a much darker way than the rest. Oh sure, Pierce comes in as a close second, but he doesn't seem to get how dark his family and upbringing was in the same way that Shirley does with hers. For one thing, she's apparently so chaotic a drunk that a bar the characters go to for Troy's 21st birthday hung her picture up and the bouncers actively fear her anger. In season 3, she and Jeff suddenly remember that she bullied him excessively when they were kids. Sure, Jeff being Jeff probably had it coming more than he lets on, but still. This combined with other smaller details throughout the show hint that Shirley's obsession with the man upstairs has more than a little bit of personal stake in it. Jesus, take the wheel. Number 3, Pierce is a manipulative mastermind. Throughout most of the show, we're led to believe that Pierce is nothing more than an outdated, ignorant, casually racist fool. Mostly because for the most part, the show does little to disprove this, to the point of casting Chevy Chase to play him to be as thorough as possible. But then the season 2 episode, Intermediate Documentary Filmmaking, comes along and completely flips the script. Seemingly just for the fun of messing with his supposed friends, Pierce fakes being at death's door and uses the sympathy such situations would garner from his friends to put them in scenarios that turn their very natures against themselves. From Troy meeting LeVar Burton in person and freezing up, to Britta being forced to choose between using a blank check from Pierce as a gift to charity or to help her own living situation, to forcing Jeff to confront his own unresolved feelings about his deadbeat father. That last one is what causes the whole scheme to unravel, but at that point, the only way to control that situation would be to actually produce Jeff's father. When you can utterly take control of everyone around you until it reaches a point of absolute chaos, then you've got a brain on you worth envying. Or at least you would if that brain wasn't so super racist. Number 2, Britta is right about everything. Now before you go, wait, Britta? Yes, Britta. If you were to stuff all of the insufferable self-righteousness, abysmally lacking self-awareness, and in-your-face attitude of Twitter into a single bipedal approximation of a human, it would look something eerily similar to Britta. The main running gag of the character of Britta Perry is that she is everything the right thinks the left is like. And the biggest punchline of all, she's kind of right about everything. We and the show itself makes fun of her at every turn, but the show always makes sure to frame the issues she's fighting for as worthy causes. Civil liberties, the protection of minorities, and holding corporations accountable are actually important. It isn't her political leanings that make her so hilariously pathetic. It's how she goes about expressing them. In the first episode of season 2, we see Annie get into helping Britta spread awareness for an oil spill and bringing in way more funding than her. Britta believes it's because she's super cute and thus attracting more attention from horny guys. But really it's because she informs the people who flock to her why their cause is important. A few episodes later, Britta learns of a friend of hers who is in custody overseas for providing refugee aid. And that's why we and the show love making fun of Britta. While she believes a lot of the right things, she's not exactly changing the world by yelling woke facts at a community college. And number 1, Jeff makes the group actively worse people. Dan Harmon is a really talented writer and producer and has made some excellent shows, but sometimes it really does seem like he only knows how to write one kind of protagonist, the jerk, who is supposed to be a bad person, but their badness isn't properly addressed or explored, leading to the intent most likely flying right over the audience's head. Case in point, one of the most famous episodes of the show, Remedial Chaos Theory. In this comedic exploration of multiverse theory, a single roll of the dice leads to various different universes where the gang's lives are permanently and ridiculously screwed up, until we return to our original universe, where we find the one difference between the original and divergent timelines: Jeff is the one who goes to get the pizza. This is the only difference between the original and the other timelines, and the outcome is the polar opposite of all of them, with the gang enjoying pizza and singing along to Roxanne. In all the others, the gang either kills each other, grow further apart, or in the best of the other timelines, just become super awkward with each other. Jeff is the element of chaos that actively makes the other members of the study group worse people with his mere presence. You asshole, Jeff. And those are 10 things you will learn rewatching Community. Have you gone back and gone through the episodes? Did I miss something? Go to the comments and let me know. And yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to What Culture for more great content like this. I can't count the reasons I should stay. So until next time, I'm Ori Styler, and this is What Culture. Take care.